With the release of the new Harley Quinn trailer, I thought instead of doing a video around that, I'll turn my attention to a different DC film, one that was released back in May 2019 and my personal favourite superhero.
Say my name.
Billy!
No, not my name. No, say the name that I say to turn into this guy.
Shazam!
Now, why do I want to talk about a film that was released in May 2019? Well, something about this film interests me, and it's a question I ask myself a lot. Was Shazam a success? Now, what do I mean by was it a success? The film critically did excellently and was received fairly well by audiences and had a moderate box office success. So you might be saying, what are you talking about? Well, hold on. I think Shazam wasn't a failure, but wasn't a success. In this video, I'm going to look through a number of points why I think Shazam wasn't quite the success everyone thinks it is. Now this for me is one of the biggest reasons why I don't think Shazam was a success, and this isn't to do with box office or the actual critical reception, and I think Shazam is a bad looking film. So upon rewatching Shazam, I noticed the film was very bland visually. The camera is always shooting in stagnant positions, the colour grading is dull, grey concrete, and it's a similar visual look of this film. While Shazam's costume is fantastic and is incredibly comic accurate, the world around him doesn't match his vibrant colours. I think the dull, lifeless colour grading is best emphasised in the look of the 7 deadly sins. 7 grey, unimaginative, dull designed creatures, again a common theme of DC films. The lifeless cinematography and colour grading doesn't give Shazam an actual look or feel to it. Whilst I feel the character Shazam is portrayed near on perfectly in the film, his surroundings don't allow for the character, in my opinion, to truly come alive. For an unknown character to be a big hit, the film needs a memorable look to match the personality of the character. Shazam is a colourful, fun, light-hearted character that can't truly be shown in front of drab concrete. It's the same reason Batman doesn't rock up in a film that visually looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. Looking at films like Batman and Guardians of the Galaxy, however, their visual look matches their characters they surround. Batman is a dark, looming, somewhat depressing character, so it makes sense the world around him matches his persona as dark, bleak and a claustrophobic city, which built on his somewhat somber character. Again, this works for Guardians of the Galaxy, who are fun, light-hearted characters in similar vein to Shazam. Their world is colourful and vibrant, matching their personas. These characters are more about adventure, seeing incredible things. It would make sense that the things around them are more energetic and lively, because these characters are full of life. I mean, could you picture Batman standing in this scene or the Guardians in this? I know I'm talking in extremes, but this does highlight somewhat the point of the world needs to match the character. And without a distinctive visual look, audiences can't really remember or associate a style with the character. I mean, just look at this poster for Shazam. It's so bland and visually uninteresting. Compare that with these posters and you know exactly what you're going to get from the film. You understand the type of characters and the world they're in. With this poster, I just see a light-hearted character, but I have no idea about the setting he is in. A poster should inspire creativity. This just doesn't. And I think the visual look of this film is the biggest disappointment for me. And due to the unmemorable visual style of the film, Shazam is starting to become a forgotten character, because the actual visual look of his film was just so uninspiring. So on an estimated $80 to $100 million budget, Shazam managed to gross worldwide $346 million, which sounds pretty good. However, the rule of thumb is to always double the budget, as this does not take into account marketing costs, so Shazam probably made around $150 to $170 million, but that's besides the point. If we look at how the DCU has done at the box office, Shazam is considered a success, compared to say Batman vs Superman and Justice League. Despite grossing much lower than both films, this is rationalised by saying Shazam shouldn't gross as much as these films due to Shazam being an unestablished character to general audiences, which, yes, is true. However, if we look at the MCU, only one of their first 7 films grossed lower than Shazam, and all these films featured fairly unknown characters: Iron Man, Thor and Captain America. These were not well known characters to the public, but still managed to gross more than Shazam. Now, this could be attributed to the mixed reception of the entire DCU spilling into Shazam and affecting its box office takings. Now, whilst yes, there is a case to be made, I think there is more to it. Shazam came off the back of the release of Aquaman, which managed a hefty $1.1 billion at the global box office, and that was released after the failure that was Justice League. This shows these films aren't completely affected by what is preceded before them. So you might be saying, well, Aquaman had already been introduced in cinema and is a well-known character to general audiences, so it's not fair to compare Aquaman and Shazam. So let's compare Shazam and Guardians of the Galaxy. Is that fair? Nope. The only comparison I would draw between these two films is that they both involve characters not well known to general audiences, but gross two very different totals at the global box office, with Guardians of the Galaxy grossing over twice the amount Shazam managed. Now, I know there are many different aspects at play why this is, and I am oversimplifying it, but I do think it highlights the difference in marketing between DC and Marvel, and does somewhat hint to low interest in the character of Shazam. Of the top 50 highest grossing superhero films ever, 21 out of the 23 Marvel films are in the top 50, only Incredible Hulk and the first Avenger missing the cut. All of the DCEU films are in the top 50, except one, Shazam. One of the interesting things I think is the bottom 5 of the top 50 highest grossing. The newest film was released in 2013, 2 were released in the noughties, and even the original Batman makes the top 50. When you consider inflation of ticket prices, big superhero films like Shazam should be making the top 50 ahead of these films. I mean, even fucking Hancock is number 38, and this is where the new character argument really falls on its feet. Many films in this list are characters' first solo films, and many were not backed by big cinematic universes. However, Shazam would already have a built-in fan base of comic book fans, DC film fans, and just general fans of the character like myself. I know this number doesn't make a huge difference to the box office total, but it's still, this number of built-in fans does help to get word of mouth spreading over to general audiences. However, I do understand Shazam's box office total was affected by the fact Avengers Endgame came out 2 weeks after its release, and I think DC did not anticipate how much Endgame would actually eat into Shazam's profits, because once that film came out, no one was seeing any other films, so Shazam had essentially a 2-week period to make back its budget and marketing costs with some profit on top. I do think Shazam would have benefited from an earlier release date, so it didn't come up against the biggest film ever made. However, I still feel Shazam should be able to crack the top 50, as so many poorer films have managed this, and I do think it points towards people not being interested in the character. Sometimes films don't perform excellently at the box office, but well enough to achieve a sequel, which is what Shazam has achieved. This is usually met with a lot of interest from audiences and fans alike to see what the sequel will bring. Films like Batman Begins, The First Avenger, X-Men and many more have done this and have brought in larger box office grosses in the sequel. Now, whilst these films were released at various different times in different circumstances, it does highlight the fact that these films built in a large core fan base and generated a lot of buzz and interest around the characters. Now, this is my own personal opinion, but there doesn't appear to be the same interest around Shazam and where the character goes in the future, with any potential stories that could be told with the character. Of course, I could be totally wrong and the sequel could be a huge success. There has been some renewed interest with Shazam, largely in part to The Rock's Black Adam film finally having a release date, and this fact could be used as a marketing point for Shazam, that The Rock could possibly make an appearance in the sequel. The point I'm trying to make is that currently it doesn't seem Shazam has left a mark on audiences. DC have not been promoting the character much recently, mostly focusing on other films, but seem to have sidelined Shazam somewhat. Whilst the MCU always keeps up with their current characters and is always marketing them forward despite having other films coming out, DC don't seem to be doing the same with Shazam, and he seems to just be on the sidelines currently for the much bigger, more marketable superheroes, instead of DC trying to make Shazam their version of Guardians of the Galaxy, an unknown character being somewhat the staple of their cinematic universe. So I guess I kind of haven't answered whether Shazam was a success or not in this video, but that's just what I'm like. I'm very on the fence sometimes. But I do suppose it was a somewhat success. It got the character out there, was a good film, and I am interested into what comes next. I am just a little worried that fans and audiences are not that interested in the film. I'm a great admirer of David F. Sandberg, who started on YouTube making short horror films and has started to make big Hollywood blockbusters. It's an incredible story and it shows how much talent he truly has. I think he needs to be given a bit more free rein in the sequel, which I hope he does, because I'd be really interested to see what he does with this character. The Rock coming on as Black Adam is fantastic casting, and I think it will give renewed interest for the character of Shazam. In my opinion, all the pieces are in place to make Shazam a big blockbuster summer film. It's just seeing if DC can put all these pieces together, but I think it does start with marketing Shazam more at the forefront of their DC universe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.